Well, good morning, YouTube. All right, guys, today we were over here at the shop, and I had mentioned in the tractor video, which you've probably already seen, that I've also got to work on this Goldwing today. So we finished up with the tractor a little while ago, and I am moving on to this. Now, it's basically really just a simple oil change is all we need to do on this, but Gene, the owner of this motorcycle, asked me to at least look the whole motorcycle over, as this motorcycle is new to him. He just recently purchased it. Now, we did take it for a short road test just from the house to here, and mechanically it seems sound. I don't feel anything wrong with the brakes. There's nothing wrong with the engine runs, nothing wrong with the tires vibrate. Road test feels pretty good. So we're going to start with the oil change, and then while the oil's draining, we're going to take a walk around and see what else we can find. All right, guys, and what we're working with here is a 2005 Honda Goldwing, aka the GL 1800. Now, it's actually 1832 cc's. Now, this is what they consider the fifth generation of the Goldwing. And this fifth generation pretty much went from 2001 all the way up until 2017. Now, through that vast years of production, there were quite a few different models. You had like Interstates, Aspencades, so on and so forth, but they were all basically the same motorcycle underneath. 2012, there was some aesthetic redesigns, but underneath it was basically the same motorcycle. It just looked a little bit sleeker, a little bit smoother. And then, of course, in 2018, they had the Generation 2 of the GL 1800, and it vastly changed. But we're not going to get into that. So if you want to know how to do an oil change on one of these GL 1800 Goldwings, this is how we do it. It's actually pretty simple. So when you come down here at the front of the motorcycle, you will find right underneath this front cowling the oil filter and the 17 millimeter head drain bolt. Right next to each other makes it really easy. Now, truth is, in most cases, when I'm doing an oil change, I will drain the oil first, and then I'll worry about taking the filter off, just so that the oil can be draining while I'm doing something else. The Goldwing is a little bit different because the drain plug and the oil filter are right next to each other, and because that drain plug points straight forward towards the front tire and not down. There's an arc through the oil as it departs the crankcase. If you take the drain plug out first and then try to work on the filter, you're going to get oil all over the place. It's going to be splashing off your hand as you're in the way. So what I do first is just break the drain plug loose. Well, that sucker's on there tight. Not supposed to be that tight. All right, then once the drain plug is actually loose, then I will break loose my oil filter and remove it. Now, I didn't actually back the drain plug out, not enough to get it to leak or anything, just broke it loose so I don't have to fight with it while there's oil dripping from the oil filter already. Now, I'm gonna try and get this oil filter loose by hand, but based on how tight the drain plug was, I have a feeling I'm not gonna be able to. And yeah, it's not budging. And of course, I have an oil filter wrench socket that fits this perfectly, but it's not here. So I'm gonna try to grab hold of it with a pair of channel locks and see if I can knock it loose that way. Okay, so that pair of channel locks that I had here wasn't big enough to fit that oil filter. So I ran up to Goliath to grab an assortment of tools, and I've got these oil filter pliers and oil filter vice grips. But then I remembered, I've got this thing. I think this is actually pretty cool. And if you've got a Goldwing or any metric motorcycle for the most part, I shouldn't say any, there's a lot that this won't work on. This is a pretty cool tool to have if you want to do your own oil changes. It's got the 17 millimeter built into that side. You can see this is a little bit chewed up, but then this side fits the oil filter. And for a Goldwing, we don't have to pull off any panels or anything. Literally, just this one tool, drain plug and filter, makes it pretty convenient. All right, so we're just gonna reach up here with this, get on there and break it loose. She is pretty tight. There we go. Now I don't wanna loosen it too much because I don't have a drain pan in place yet, but having the drain pan in place limits your room to work here. So at least get it started first. All right, then with the drain pan in place, I can reach up and unscrew that filter the rest of the way. Okay, now make sure that your drain pan is all the way forward towards the tire, because when you pull that drain plug, the oil shoots out and goes down. All right. But see how far forward it shoots out? Make sure your drain pan isn't directly underneath it or you'll miss it. So while that is draining, move around to the right side of the motorcycle and you're going to take off this chrome cover. It's only held in there by a couple of push pins and rubber grommets and a little pin right up here as well, or like a plastic tab, I should say. So usually you just grab it right there, pull out on it, and then slide it back. Don't lose that rubber grommet. Pretty common for them to fall out. The other two are right there. They look in pretty good shape. Actually, somebody was smart. They zip tied them on because they fall out sometimes. Now, if you look, this grommet here, you can see it is in a really bad shape. So maybe I can see if I can source him a new one. But normally what I would do is put that back on there before reinstalling this, because it's a lot easier to line that up with that than it is to line this up with that. Just saying. Anyway, the reason we took that cover off is so that we can get to the dipstick, which is also our fill point. And even that sucker is tight. Had to use pliers to break it loose, but after that it just unthreads and you actually have a dipstick. So now while the oil is draining, we're going to do a walk around of the motorcycle, check tires, check brake pads, check everything else that we think we need to check, and see if there's anything that needs attention. Now, I did notice with this cover off that the rear brake fluid reservoir is at the minimum line. So there's a very good likelihood that those rear pads might be worn down pretty good, lowering that fluid level as that piston has to take up the slack. So we're going to look at that. I think we're going to go ahead and change the final drive oil as well. We'll do that in just a moment. But yeah, so let's just take a quick look. Tread on the front tire looks pretty good. I'm going to check the date codes here in a minute, but they look like fairly new tires, or at least the front one does. Yeah, the rear tire is in really good shape as well. Again, looks like they were recently replaced. So it looks like he definitely needs rear brake pads. The one on the inside is pretty much non-existent, and I can feel that it's already starting to get into that rotor some. And well, he's definitely got a leak on this rear differential or final drive. Well, the front brake pads are just so-so. I'm going to recommend that he replace all three sets, and then we'll probably just go ahead and flush the brakes at the same time, but I don't want to flush the brakes until I change the brake pads. So we may have to do that another day, because I don't know if I can order the parts and get them here in time to do this before we leave again for Ocean City. So we may just be doing the oil change on it today, and that's it. And also, I just noticed the writing on the oil filter. October 18th, 2019. It was over 6 years ago that oil was changed. So yeah, definitely way overdue for an oil change if that is correct. So I'm really glad that we're changing it now. All right, guys, it has been plenty long for the engine to drain. I've actually left, went to go meet with Sammy, the gravel guy, for a little bit and back. So we're gonna go ahead and put this back together. I've already dumped the waste oil. I put the crush washer back on the drain plug. Now, I did not use a new crush washer. I know the dealerships will scare you into saying that you have to have a new crush washer every single time. But I can also tell you that I've reused these things thousands of times without leaks. I've seen maybe one or two in my entire career that have leaked from being reused. And the truth is, I'm not opposed to replacing it, but I didn't have one that was the right size. The one that I have here, it's just got a slightly too big of a diameter, and it won't work properly. So, but I also put a little bit of the blue pipe dope on there. I like doing that anyways. No, it's not 100% necessary, but it just adds an extra level of sealant, but it's also an anti-vibration. That way, if for some reason it were to come loose, it's less likely to work its way out of the engine, because believe me, these are things that can happen, and we prefer not to. So we're going to put the drain plug back in. We're going to put the new oil filter back on it. As you see, we are using Amsoil filter for the Goldwing, or most metric motorcycles, is the EAOM 103. That will work on almost all Hondas that have a spin-on filter. Yamaha, Kawasaki, not Suzuki. Suzuki says a different part number. Even the Indian, the Victory, yeah, there's so many oil filters that this particular filter fits just perfect. And we're using the metric 10W40 motorcycle oil. This is actually an older bottle that's been on the shelf a while. The logo is different. You see it's a little dusty. This is something that Gene had in stock already. He sells Amsoil products through his shop. Guess who his sponsoring dealer is? All right, so we're gonna reinstall the drain plug by hand. I can find it, find the hole, there we go. And I take it pretty much all the way in by hand until it seats. And then I'll torque it. And then just lightly coat the gasket surface of the new oil filter with some fresh, clean oil and screw it on hand tight. You don't need any tools here, just hand tight. And now with an appropriate funnel put into the dipstick tube, we just simply add the oil. And if I'm not mistaken, it takes almost 4 full quarts to fill this machine all the way up. Yeah, I'm not doing so well at this filming while I'm pouring thing. Yeah, I need to practice at that a little bit better. That's twice today that I spilled good product because I was trying to film me pouring instead of watching what I was doing. So then we're gonna double check our level by reinserting the dipstick. And if I'm not mistaken, Honda recommends that you thread the dipstick all the way in and then back out to check for proper oil level. Now that was just shy of 4 quarts in there, so it looks like we need a little bit more. That first gallon that I had was already open. There was a little bit over 3 in there. So yeah, it looks like we're gonna need at least most of 1 more quart. Keep in mind, we haven't run the engine yet, so that oil filter is still empty. So it's probably gonna take 1 more quart. And then once we run the engine, it should be pretty darn close. So let's find out. Who likes the glug? Glug, 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 glug. All right, I only put about half a quart in. We'll start there. All right, so now we're right to the full mark, but we haven't run it yet. So we will run it to prime the system real quick. Only takes about a minute, and then we'll double check it just to get all the air out of the system and see where the level is. Now, because it's run, you want to wipe your stick clean and then reinsert it. Thread it all the way to the bottom and then thread it all the way back out. And see, now we're not even on the stick. So we're gonna need that other half a quart. All right, I added a little bit more and there we go. Oop, get in focus. That is just about perfect right there. So at this point, the engine oil change is done. Just let it run for a few moments. Double check that your drain plug and your oil filter aren't leaking and everything is good. And you should be able to button it up. But we're also gonna change the oil in the rear differential. And I have a feeling that might be a waste because I think his differential is leaking. I keep calling it differential, the final drive. It works just like a differential, but there's no differential in it. But there is a ring gear, there is a pinion gear, and it does change direction as far as rotation. So you get the linear shaft coming out of the transmission and it changes to spin the wheel. So it's a ring and pinion, but it's technically not a differential. But anyway, they don't hold very much oil. And he's got a lot of oil and buildup around it. So I have a feeling it's leaking. Not sure where it's leaking from yet. So I'm gonna try to clean that off a little bit first. And then we'll go ahead and show you the oil change process on it, which is really simple. Well guys, this is actually pretty terrible. I've scraped a lot off, but just look at the buildup. Look at what's falling off of the motorcycle. I've never seen quite this much buildup on a Goldwing before. So I'm gonna try to get a little bit better around that drain plug. It's just on there pretty heavy. Nasty. All right, before draining the oil, I am jacking the motorcycle up just a little bit. Your jack point is right underneath the hinge point of the actual center stand. That point is designed to handle the weight of the motorcycle. And I'm just jacking it up far enough to where I can rotate the tire freely just to get the weight off of the rear end. As soon as you can spin that tire, that's as far as you gotta go. There we go. So the reason I jack the bike up to do this is just because it raises the motorcycle up and allows the swing arm to drop in relationship to the exhaust. Just gives you a little bit more room to work and see what you're doing. Okay, so right here at like the 6 o'clock position on the housing is your drain plug. Then right up here is your fill plug, and that's the one that's hard to get to if you don't jack the bike up. They're both 17 millimeter. This one will have an O-ring behind it. This one will have a crush washer behind it. All right, and before I pull the drain plugs out, I take the 1 gallon jug and I kind of make this weird contraption with it because it helps protect the tire from oil because you can't fit a full-size drain plug here very well. So I've broken these loose. So I'm taking out the fill plug right now. You can't see it very good. You see, O-ring is intact. And then now we will take out the lower drain plug. I'm curious to see how much is in here. Well, that oil actually looks in pretty good shape. See, it's not a huge capacity here. It only fills to here, so it only holds a few ounces. Anyway, we'll give that a few minutes to drain. And while it's draining, I will go ahead and clean and prep the drain plug and the fill cap to get ready to go back in. All right, so after it's done draining, take our cleaned and prepped drain plug and reinstall it. And I go ahead and torque it down now. Not too tight. All right, and to fill the final drive, you want to use an 80, 90, or 75, 90 equivalent gear oil. So we're going to be using the AMSOIL Severe Gear 7590. Now, there are no dipsticks or sight glasses or anything. Basically, that upper hole, the fill hole, you basically fill it until it starts to run out of that hole, and then you stop. It's pretty simple, and you can't really get it wrong. And that's why you want to keep your drain pan underneath it. This is really hard to do with a camera in my hand, but so I'm just squeezing the oil in there. There we go, it starts to overflow. That means it's full. Now I just put the cap back on. All right, snug it back down with your 17 millimeter wrench and you're done. Well, folks, that's it. If you just wanted to do an engine oil change and a final drive oil change, it's a relatively simple job. Anybody can do it at home. Now, we may have more work to do on this motorcycle. I've got to look up some parts. I got to look up the air filter and brake pads and get them on order for him, assuming that he chooses to continue with the service. If not, we'll just call it done like it is. But these are things that I think it needs to be done, and I know Gene, he's going to want to do them. But I don't know that that's going to get done before we go to Ocean City because we've only got a few days until we leave for that. So we're going to end this video here. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe. And if you're going to come out to Ocean City, we hope to see you there in a couple weeks. Well, a couple weeks. It's next week. Yeah, it's next week. What am I saying? Anyway, guys, till next time we see you, keep those engines running.